My mother slides the papers across the dining table like it's nothing. Her nails tap the folder twice. "Just sign it," she says softly. My stepfather sits beside her, arms crossed, watching me too closely. My sister leans back in her chair, smiling like she already knows the ending. I don't touch the pen. Something feels wrong. My name is typed too many times. Their names are already signed. I look up slowly. Why is my signature already on page 3? No one answers. My mother's smile disappears. And that's when I realized this dinner was never about asking me. It was about making it official. Storyteller introduction. My name is Madison Reyes. I'm 24 years old, and I'm telling this because the night my family tried to trap me with those papers was the night I stopped being their daughter. Part 1. The Betrayal. 700 words. I grew up in Mesa, Arizona, in a small beige house at the end of a quiet street where nothing ever seemed to change. The sidewalks were cracked, the neighbors kept to themselves, and the desert heat made everything feel slower than it really was. It had always been just me and my mom. She raised me alone after my father left when I was 6. She worked 2 jobs, morning shifts at a dental office and nights at a grocery store. I remember waiting in the living room, pretending to sleep so she wouldn't feel guilty for coming home late. Back then, it was us against the world. That changed when I was 13. She met Daniel. He wasn't loud or aggressive. He was quiet, calm, the kind of man who smiled without showing his teeth. He worked in real estate and always wore clean button-down shirts even on weekends. At first, he was nice to me. He brought home takeout, asked about school, called me kiddo. A year later, they got married. 2 years after that, his daughter Chloe moved in with us. Chloe was my age, but she was everything I wasn't. Confident, stylish, loud. People noticed her when she entered a room. Teachers liked her. Boys liked her more. My mom liked her too. At first, I told myself I was imagining it, that the small changes didn't mean anything. Like how my mom started missing my school events but never missed Chloe's. How Daniel helped Chloe buy her first car, but when mine broke down, he told me to figure it out. How family photos slowly shifted, me standing at the edge instead of the center. I learned to stay quiet. After high school, I moved out and rented a tiny apartment near Arizona State University, where I studied graphic design while working at a coffee shop. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I paid my own rent, bought my own groceries, built a life without depending on them. For a while, the distance made things easier. My mom still called sometimes. She'd ask, "When are you visiting?" I always said, "Soon." But soon never came. Then, 3 weeks ago, she called again. Her voice sounded different, too cheerful. "Madison, honey, why don't you come over for dinner Friday? It's been too long. Just family." Just family. I hesitated, but a small part of me still wanted to believe things could go back to how they used to be. So I said yes. Friday night, I drove past the same cracked sidewalks, the same faded mailboxes. Nothing had changed. The house looked exactly the same too. When I stepped inside, the smell of roasted chicken filled the air. "Madison," my mom said, rushing toward me like nothing had ever been wrong. She hugged me tightly. For a second, I let myself relax. Maybe I had been overthinking everything. Dinner was quiet, too quiet. Daniel asked polite questions about my job, but didn't really listen to the answers. Chloe scrolled on her phone, smiling at something on the screen. Then, halfway through the meal, my mom stood up. "I almost forgot," she said lightly. She walked to the kitchen and came back holding a blue folder. She placed it in front of me. "This is just a family formality," she said. Daniel didn't speak. Chloe finally looked up. I stared at the folder. "What is it?" I asked. My mom smiled. "Nothing complicated, just paperwork for the house. It makes things easier later." Later. I opened it slowly. My chest tightened. It was full of legal documents, property documents. My name appeared again and again. I flipped through the pages. Daniel's signature was there, my mom's signature too. And then my breath stopped. My signature, perfectly copied, placed on a page I had never seen before. I looked up, my hands shaking. "I didn't sign this." My mom's face froze. Daniel leaned forward slightly. "It's just a draft," he said calmly. "No," I whispered, "this is filed paperwork." Chloe's lips curved into a faint smile. I looked back down, forcing myself to read. The words blurred together, but one sentence stood out clearly. Transfer of ownership and beneficiary rights. Not to me, to Chloe. My stomach dropped. This house belonged to my father. He left it to you and me. My mom didn't answer. Daniel spoke instead. "It's simpler this way." Simpler? Like I was an inconvenience? Like I didn't matter? I pushed the papers back across the table. "I'm not signing anything." My mom's voice hardened. "Madison, don't make this difficult." I stood up. "You already did." No one stopped me as I walked out. No one called after me. The desert air hit my face, hot and dry. My hands trembled as I unlocked my car. I drove home in silence, my mind racing. Something was not just wrong. Something had already been done. When I reached my apartment, I spread the papers across my kitchen table. That's when I saw the official county stamp at the bottom of one page. Filed, processed, approved. My heart pounded. They hadn't invited me to ask permission. They had invited me to make their lie complete. And in that moment, staring at my forged name on legal documents, I realized something that made my chest go cold. My own family had been planning this a long time. I didn't sleep that night. The papers stayed spread across my kitchen table, lit by the yellow glow of the overhead light. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my signature, perfectly curved, perfectly fake. I traced it with my finger. They had practiced it. That realization hurt more than anything else. Not anger, not yet. This was patience, planning. They hadn't rushed, they had taken their time, which meant I had to do the same. The next morning, I called in sick to work. My manager didn't ask questions. I think she heard something in my voice. I sat down with my laptop and searched the phrase stamped at the bottom of the document, Maricopa County Recorder's Office. If it was stamped, it was real, which meant there was a record. My hands shook as I opened the county website. There was a public search tool. Anyone could look up property filings. I typed in my mother's name. Dozens of results appeared. Most were old, mortgage updates, tax records, normal things. Then I saw it, a filing from 2 weeks ago, property transfer. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. I clicked it. The digital scan loaded slowly, line by line, and there it was, the same document, Daniel's signature, my mother's signature, and mine. Except I knew the truth. I hadn't been there. I hadn't held that pen. I stared at the date. 2 weeks ago, I had been working a double shift at the coffee shop. I remembered clearly because my feet hurt so badly I could barely stand when I got home. But according to this document, I had been signing away my rights. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. They didn't expect me to check. They expected me to trust them, or stay quiet, or be too afraid to challenge it. I grabbed my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found someone I hadn't spoken to in almost a year, Ethan Morales. We had gone to high school together. He was the quiet kid who sat in the back of class and sketched in his notebooks. We weren't close back then, but we reconnected briefly last year when I needed help reviewing a freelance contract. He was in law school now at Arizona State University's Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law. I hesitated. Then I called. He answered on the third ring. "Madison?" he said, surprised. "Hey, is everything okay?" I swallowed. "I need advice." He didn't hesitate. "Come by campus." An hour later, I sat across from him in a quiet study room. Nothing about him had changed. Same calm eyes, same steady voice. I slid the printed documents across the table. He read them carefully. He didn't interrupt, didn't react. When he finished, he looked at me. "Did you sign this?" he asked. "No." He nodded slowly, like he already knew the answer. "Then this is serious." My chest tightened. "What does that mean?" He tapped the paper gently. "It means someone submitted a legal document claiming you agreed to transfer your interest in the property." "But I didn't." "No. The question is how they got it accepted." He pointed at the signature. "Forgery cases are complicated. Whoever filed this had to present identification or notarization." Notarization. I remembered the stamp on the page. My stomach twisted. "They had it notarized," I whispered. Ethan's expression hardened slightly. "That means a notary public verified your identity. Either someone lied or someone pretended to be you." The room felt smaller, hotter. "They stole my house," I said quietly. Ethan leaned forward. "Not yet." I looked at him. He held my gaze. "Documents can be challenged," he said, "especially if they were filed under false pretenses."
Hope flickered faintly inside me. But you need proof. Proof. I laughed weakly. How do you prove you didn't sign something? He thought for a moment. Start with timelines. Where you were that day. Work records, messages, anything that shows you couldn't have been there. I nodded slowly. I had clock-in records, security cameras at work, receipts, evidence. For the first time since that dinner, I felt something different. Not helpless. Focused. Ethan continued. And also, don't confront them yet. I already refused to sign. That's different, he said calmly. Right now, they think you're confused, maybe hurt, but not dangerous. Dangerous. The word lingered in my mind. He slid the papers back toward me. If they planned this, he said quietly, you'll assume you'll either give up or accept it. I gathered the documents carefully. I won't, I said. He nodded once. Then be smarter than they are. That night, I went home and opened a new folder on my laptop. I named it one word. Evidence. I uploaded everything. Photos of the papers, screenshots of the county records, my work schedule, time cards. Every file made me feel stronger. They had spent years slowly pushing me out of my own family. They thought I was still the quiet girl who stayed at the edge of photos. They didn't know I had been paying attention. And as I stared at their forged signatures glowing on my screen, I realized something that made my fear disappear completely. If they could plan behind my back for years, I could plan too.
The first thing I did was go back to the house. Not inside. I parked across the street in my old blue Honda and watched from a distance. The same porch, the same faded welcome mat, the same wind chimes my mom bought when I was 10. For a second, memories tried to pull me back. Birthday cakes, movie nights, her hand on my shoulder. I pushed the feeling away. That house wasn't a memory anymore. It was evidence. Daniel's black SUV sat in the driveway, Chloe's white sedan beside it. They were home. I pulled out my phone and turned on the camera, slowly zooming in on the front door, the windows, the mailbox. I didn't know if I would need it, but I recorded everything. Because now I trusted nothing. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. Ethan, did you find anything useful? Me. I'm outside the house. 3 dots appeared immediately. Ethan, be careful. Don't confront them yet. Too late. The front door opened. My mom stepped outside, holding a grocery bag. She froze when she saw my car. Even from across the street, I could see the tension in her shoulders. She said something over her shoulder, and Daniel appeared behind her. He saw me too. For a moment, none of us moved. Then he walked down the driveway toward the street. Slow, calm, controlled. I lowered my window halfway. He stopped a few feet from my car. You shouldn't be sitting out here, he said evenly. I forced myself to stay calm. I was just visiting. His eyes narrowed slightly. Your position was made clear the other night. My position? I repeated. He rested his hands in his pockets. The paperwork is already processed. There's nothing left to discuss. Hearing him say it out loud made my chest tighten, but I didn't let it show. I never signed it. His expression didn't change. You're mistaken. The confidence in his voice made my skin crawl. He really believed he had won. I checked the county records, I said quietly. That made him pause, just for a second. It was small, but I saw it. Then his calm returned. You should move on, Madison. It's better for everyone. Everyone, meaning Chloe, meaning him, not me. I met his eyes. Why did you need my signature so badly? His jaw tightened. For clarity, he said. Clarity, such a clean word for something so ugly. Behind him, my mom stood frozen on the porch. She hadn't come closer. She hadn't said my name. She hadn't defended me. That silence hurt more than anything Daniel could say. I trusted you, I said softly. Daniel didn't respond. He just stared at me like I was a stranger. I rolled the window up slowly. I'll leave, I said. He nodded once and turned away, walking back toward the house. I drove off, my hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. He wasn't afraid. Not yet. That meant I needed something bigger. That night, Ethan called me. I did some checking, he said. There's a notary stamp on your document. That notary has records. My heart raced. Records? Yes, he said. Notaries log every signing. Date, time, identification shown. Proof. Real proof. If someone pretended to be you, he continued, there's a chance they left a trail. The next morning, I drove to a small shipping and printing store in Tempe. The sign above the door read, "Notary services available." My hands felt cold as I stepped inside. A woman in her 50s stood behind the counter, wearing glasses on a chain. "Can I help you?" she asked politely. I placed the printed document on the counter. "I believe this was notarized here," I said. She adjusted her glasses and leaned closer. Her finger traced the stamp. "Yes," she said slowly. "That's mine." My heart slammed against my ribs. "I need to see the log," I said. She hesitated. "Why?" I swallowed. "Because I wasn't here." Her eyes widened slightly. She walked to the back and returned with a thick black book. She flipped through the pages carefully. Then she stopped. "There," she said. She turned the book toward me. My name was written in neat ink, Madison Reyes. The date matched the filing, but the signature beside it, it wasn't mine. It was close enough to fool someone who didn't know me, but I knew every curve of my own name, and this wasn't it. My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Do you remember this person?" The woman frowned. She looked closer, then her expression changed. "Yes," she said slowly. She pointed to a small note beside the entry. "ID presented, Arizona driver license." My stomach dropped. I hadn't lost my license. I reached into my wallet and pulled it out. Still there, still mine. Which meant only one thing. Someone had stood in this exact spot, pretending to be me. And suddenly I knew. This wasn't just paperwork. This was planned. I stared at the notary log, my fake signature sitting beside my real name. My hands stopped shaking, because now I finally had something stronger than suspicion. I had proof. "Can I get a copy of this page?" I asked. The notary hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Yes." Minutes later, I walked out holding the printed copy like it was fragile glass. Outside, the Arizona sun burned against my skin, but for the first time in weeks, I felt cold and clear inside. I called Ethan immediately. "They had someone impersonate me," I said. He didn't sound surprised. "That log is powerful evidence, especially if the signature doesn't match your ID. What do I do now?" There was a pause. "You challenge it officially," he said, "and you confront them with proof." That night, I returned to the house. This time, I didn't park across the street. I parked in the driveway. The porch light flicked on as I stepped out. My mom opened the door slowly. "Madison," she said. Her voice sounded smaller than I remembered. "I need to talk," I said. Daniel appeared behind her instantly, his expression guarded. Chloe stood in the hallway, watching silently. I walked inside without waiting for permission. The house smelled the same, looked the same, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. I placed the copied notary log on the dining table. "I went to the notary," I said. No one spoke. Daniel's eyes dropped briefly to the paper. "That's not my signature, and I have my license, so whoever stood there wasn't me." Silence filled the room. My mom's hands trembled. Daniel stayed still, calm, too calm. "You're overreacting," he said quietly. I let out a small breath. I also spoke to the county office. They told me filings can be challenged, especially if identity was misrepresented. Chloe shifted uncomfortably. Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. For the first time, I saw uncertainty. "I'm filing a formal dispute tomorrow," I said. My mom gasped softly. "Madison, please," she whispered. I looked at her, really looked at her. "You knew," I said. Tears filled her eyes. She didn't deny it. That was enough. "I trusted you," I said quietly. Daniel stepped forward. "This doesn't have to become a bigger problem." I met his eyes. "You already made it one." No one stopped me as I turned and walked out. 2 months later, the county completed its investigation. The forged notarization invalidated the transfer. The property ownership was restored to its original legal status, half in my mother's name, half in mine. Daniel avoided me completely after that. Chloe never called. My mom tried once. I didn't answer. Instead, I hired a lawyer and forced the legal sale of my share. I didn't want the house anymore. I wanted freedom. The day I received the check, I sat in my small apartment holding the check in my hands. It wasn't just money, it was closure. They had tried to erase me quietly behind smiles and family dinners, but they forgot something important. I had their names, they had my silence, and I chose not to give it to them anymore.